Leaving episode 10 of Hell's Paradise pretty much has me saying, what exactly is happening? We get some big confirmations, things that people have been wondering, speculating about, but most importantly, just feels like now the future of this show and where a second season can go is just so much more interesting, now having the confirmation that indeed, there is a power, there is something that they could potentially harness, which we've been getting teases of, wondering, okay, May, seemingly that glowing punch of death, could that be the key into defeating the Tenzin? And we learn of an ability that more or less is saying, yes, that probably could be their defeat. We get the confirmation that there was actually a Tenzin hidden in plain sight with May herself as she wakes up after that fall, aging quite a bit, and there's only one thing on this island that has shown any sort of ability similar, which, I mean, if we rewind to the previous episode, we literally saw Buddy go from old grandpa mummy back to a normal middle-aged person, right? So there's only one thing that could do that, that being a Tenzin. But what's really interesting, and something I wasn't really considering, but is why I'm glad some of these characters exist, even if at face value they're not my favorite in the show, the idea of our book-smart samurai bringing up the fact of, like, looking for potentially the creator of the island, the person responsible for making this island what it is, and that could then potentially lead to so many more clues, if not answers. And honestly, yeah, I'm sold with this episode. We got some great action towards the end, but this episode was driven by explaining, info dumping, and just really getting the history of this world to feel so much more alive than it already did, and I'm here for more. Now, full live reaction to this episode is available on my Patreon if you do want to see my full uncut thoughts as I watch today's episode, so you can head on over there and consider supporting if you so wish. Now, first things first, May being a Tenzin. Now, this is interesting, right? Because there's definitely been some wonder about what exactly is she? I mean, a talking tree's one thing, but why would this girl seemingly just be stuck in this way? Like, did like her transformation just stop? Did she stop aging? Is she cursed? And the idea, because if we remember in the previous episode, right, when before they're like falling to what should have been their death had they not had that, like, orb pretty much protect their fall, one of the Tenzin pretty much calls out for May, saying that, like, oh, like, they have a connection. Now, obviously, you can start thinking, what if she is one of them, which could explain a lot, but it also could be that maybe said Tenzin had a connection to the village before all this sort of happened. There was a couple of possibilities, but I think Hell's Paradise went with the more interesting one, especially given that her communication skills aren't really that great, so the difference of like having like 3 different perspectives pretty much talking about the power systems at play, and pretty much Gabimaru's on the short end of the stick, basically having the least information, all things considered, as other characters are pretty much getting the full textbook example and they're learning a full history lesson without much struggle. But what I like about the idea of almost harnessing the energy of the universe, that's kind of how it feels to me in terms of taking this energy that's all around you and pretty much maybe condensing it into an attack or even condensing it into defense so you can basically withstand what should be mortal wounds, will maybe just bruise you rather than piercing your whole stomach. And with a cast as large as Hell's Paradise, it's very easy for shows like these to feel bloated or feel like, oh, my favorite character is getting overshadowed by a character I really don't care about. But that's never how I feel with this. Even if like I do have my favorite characters, I'm always interested in seeing the next perspective, and they switch around a good amount in this episode and shows characters who have been in the back burner. I mean, Buddy, the last time we really saw him, he cut his arm off because he got bit by the butterfly parasite, and now we're tagging along with him and it just feels natural. I like the fact that characters like Gabimaru is able to really understand what will or won't kill him. At the beginning of the show, he was actually visibly fearful of what Sagiri could do to him, given the fact that he saw himself dying before her. And we see the same fear when going up against someone after being that winded and wounded. He knew he was going to die. And I like the idea that rather than just keeping someone a badass who feels like, oh yeah, look at him, he's coughing up blood, he's like, I still got one more in me. No, he gets on his knees and he says, let's work together, because I got nothing in me. I don't want to die pointlessly here. I like that. I like that they're not afraid to let a character as badass and seemingly crazy as Gabimaru have normal feelings of, I can't win this battle, so I'm not going to fight a pointless battle sort of a thing. What I like about what they're doing here is that they're revealing enough at a steady enough pace, and in doing so, you always feel like you're learning more about the island, but most importantly, you're getting enough time and attention with all these side characters. I think the best comparison I can give is to a show called Hunter x Hunter. You know it from the manga, you know it from the 2011 anime, it's one of my personal favorites. And when I first discovered that, I think they were about 12 episodes out from finishing its run in terms of the anime, and when I discovered that, I binged like 50 episodes that weekend. I started it, and I couldn't put it down. I only put it down to sleep, right? That's how much it hooked me in, because I love the wild variety of characters and how each character could be the main character in so many different ways. And looking at a cast as large as this, that's honestly the same feeling I had. Honestly, it's a shame because this is the type of show that I wish I could have discovered years from now when it had 100 episodes available for me to binge. Every character that I see, even if some I like more than others, when they start bringing up the concepts of a crater of an island, or I start seeing these brothers and how, like, honestly, any of these characters could be the main character for me. And I really haven't felt this strongly since Hunter x Hunter, if I'm being honest. And I think that's another reason why this is like, why I say it's like peak new gen shonen. Large supporting cast, which even if you know less than a third are probably making it to the finish line, the idea of the uncertainty of who will make it there, the idea of when you look at master and student, right? The student usually always outlives the master, and as we saw a couple weeks back, that was the complete opposite. And now seeing the idea of this blind badass saying, I don't want to have to look at yet again another pupil of mine dying before me, but the idea of allowing her to train if you want to observe and learn as I do things, of course, but I gotta hone my skills because this island be crazy. That's the thing that really excites me about this world, and why I think the Tensen are such a fascinating creature to fight, because the almost idea of like looking at these Titan-like beings, which range from pure horror to goofy shenanigans, I think is what I love, because whether it's something like Attack on Titan or Hell's Paradise, the idea that something that large could sometimes look so goofy, and you say, how am I going to take it seriously, but you know deep down inside that thing can rip you apart, and seeing them cut them apart and how they're viewed as defects to these other creatures who have a similar design but seem more human, especially given the personality. It's just so interesting to learn more at a steady enough pace but still feel like we're getting to know these characters almost like each of them are the main character in their own story. As much as I'm loving this anime season and there's not a day of the week where I'm not excited to watch something, I will say Hell's Paradise is definitely going to be one of the shows that is going to be hardest for me to say goodbye to. I love the production style, I love whether it's the way they did Flames with Gabi Maru, or the way they even do samurais cutting apart these giant fools, but most importantly, like things where they're like talking about how this hole, it's literally trying to kill you, you shouldn't be able to climb out of it, and then we see Buddy do it just that. Is it because he ate some flesh that gave him some extra strength, or is he just that much of a badass? They seemingly are trying to direct it that he's going to die, but honestly, I have no idea who lives or dies in this show, because when I think I do, apparently the student's gonna end up dying rather than the master, so I'm just here to see whatever the hell they decide to pull. But by revealing and fully confirming that there probably is something, this ability probably could kill the Tensen, and especially because we're now piecing that it's probably in their lower section of their body of like their core, we have hope on this hell-forsaken island, and even if it's a carrot on the stick, it's better than nothing. Let me know what you thought down below in those comment sections. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here, ring that bell so you can get notified when I upload more Hell's Paradise on the channel, and as I mentioned, full live reaction to this pretty great info dump, if not exhilarating episode, is available on my Patreon if you're interested. While you're there, you'll also get a video shoutout. So today, we have Hermes Hemp, Ivy Ortega, Jam, and Devin Samuel, so I appreciate the support everyone. Please take care and have a good one.